The skies above Netheria glowed with golden storms as the palace prepared for war. Bright ships streaked across the sky, fleeing the capital as warnings echoed across the intercoms. Tensions between the alien kingdoms had finally exploded. But deep inside the palace, far from the battle lines, another kind of war had already begun. Princess Virella stood in the middle of the grand chamber, her violet skin glowing under the crystal lights. Her long braided white hair fell over her armored shoulders. She had faced assassins, debates, and military councils. But nothing prepared her for what her mother, the High Empress Lysira, had just shouted across the room. "You can't be with a human." The Empress stood tall, furious, her golden crown shaking slightly with each word. Behind her, nobles from every house looked shocked, some whispering, others glaring at the outsider. That outsider was Kale, a human soldier who had saved Virella's life during a failed peace mission 3 moons ago. He stood silently beside her now, wearing a simple uniform, out of place but not afraid. Virella did not flinch. "I've made my choice. He's not even from our world," the Empress snapped. "He's a soldier, not a royal. His blood carries no memory, no honor." Kale took a breath and spoke calmly. "I never asked for her hand. But I'll never walk away from her either." Some nobles gasped. A few left the room in anger. Virella turned to Kale. "You saved my life when everyone else fled. You protected me not because I'm a princess, but because I was in danger." He nodded. "That's what any human would do." She smiled. "That's why I trust you more than anyone in this palace." The Empress stepped down from her throne. "You dare defy royal law for this, outsider?" "I defy fear," Virella said. "He is not my weakness, he is my strength." Outside the chamber, thunder cracked. An enemy fleet had entered orbit. The ancient rivals, the Drexari Syndicate, had launched a surprise invasion. Shields across the capital began to rise. Alarms blared. Still, the Empress stared at her daughter as if none of that mattered. "You would risk your kingdom for love?" she asked. Virella turned to face the storm through the palace window. "No, I would fight to protect it, with the one who gave me a reason to believe in something more." The Empress said nothing. She simply turned and left, her cape flowing. Behind her like fire, the nobles followed. Some in support, others in silence. Kale exhaled slowly. "That went better than I thought." Virella laughed softly, even as explosions shook the horizon. "My mother didn't kill you. That's a good sign. I don't think she likes me. She doesn't like change, but war is here now. Everything will change." As the sky darkened and enemy ships descended, Virella gripped her staff, and Kale loaded his weapon. The palace guards were falling back to the inner wall. Civilians were being moved to the underground bunkers. The princess turned to him one last time before heading into battle. "If we survive this, I'm choosing you, no matter what anyone says." Kale looked into her eyes and said, "Then we survive." Together, they stepped out into the chaos, an alien princess and a human soldier, ready to face 2 wars, one for their planet, and one for their right to love, *. The palace shook as the first enemy bombs hit the outer walls. Flames lit the sky, and dust rained from the crystal ceilings. Inside the war chamber, Princess Virella moved quickly, issuing commands to her guards and officers. She was calm, but her eyes held fire. Kale stood beside her, holding a pulse rifle. He wasn't dressed like a Netherian, and he didn't know their tactics, but he knew war. And he could see it in her face. She was going to lead this fight herself. "They're coming through the eastern gate," one of the soldiers shouted. Virella turned without hesitation. "Hold that line, no one enters the inner halls." Kale followed her through the passage that led to the eastern defense point. Smoke filled the air. Alien soldiers, tall, armored Drexari, were already pushing into the lower levels of the palace. Virella didn't wait. She charged with her guards, spinning her staff and knocking 2 Dressari warriors to the ground. Kale took aim and fired. Hitting another one square in the chest, the defenders fought hard, but they were outnumbered. The Drexari were better prepared than anyone had expected. In the middle of the fight, a Drexari commander shouted in their native tongue, "Kill the human first. He is the weakness." Kale heard the words. He looked at Varela, who had heard them too. "They think you're the weak link," she said, breathing hard. "Then let's disappoint them." Kale replied. They fought back to back, covering each other as the Drexari pushed harder. Kale was fast with his aim. Varela was like lightning, her armor glowing with every strike. The guards, inspired by them, rallied and pushed forward. Finally, the enemy line broke. The Drexari fell back to regroup. Smoke cleared for a moment, revealing the damage. Walls were cracked. Bodies lay scattered. But the inner gate still stood. For now, Kale sat down, wiping sweat from his face. "Is it always like this in your palace?" Varela smiled. "Only on the interesting days, but their moment of rest didn't last." A message came through the palace comm system. The Empress had ordered a full retreat to the mountain bunkers. She was abandoning the palace. "She's leaving the capital?" Kale asked. Varela's jaw tightened. "She's giving up." "But you're not," he said. "No," she answered. "I still believe this world is worth fighting for." Kale stood. "Then we hold this palace until the last breath." Varela nodded. "We protect the people, not the throne." They returned to the command center. Many of the officers were confused and afraid. Some wanted to follow the Empress. Others looked to Varela. "She's not leaving," Kale said to the room. "And neither am I." A few turned away, but many more stayed. Varela stepped forward. "My mother will not understand my choice. But I'm not asking for permission anymore. If I must fight for both love and peace, I will." That night Kale sat near the tower balcony, staring at the stars. Varela joined him quietly. "You could still leave," she said. "No one would blame you." He looked at her. "You stayed when your whole world told you to give up." "I'm staying because you're my world now." She didn't speak. She simply leaned against his shoulder, watching the fires burn on the horizon far above. Enemy ships gathered again. The next attack would be worse, but the bond between them had already survived the first blow. Now it was only growing stronger. The palace was quiet for the first time in days. The fires had faded, the wounded had been moved to lower chambers, and the Drexari army had paused their assault. But silence in war was never peace. It was the breath before the storm. Princess Varela stood at the war table, staring at the map. Her guards moved quietly around her, preparing defenses and checking equipment. Kale entered, his eyes tired but focused. "Still no message from your mother?" he asked. Varela shook her head. "She's hidden in the mountain bunkers, pretending this palace is already lost." "But it's not," Kale said. "Because you're still here." She gave a small smile. "Because we're still here." Before he could speak again, one of her generals entered quickly, a cold look on his face. "Your Highness," he said stiffly, "we need to speak alone." Varela raised a brow. "Say what you must." The general glanced at Kale, not in front of him. "He has earned the right to stand beside me," she said. The general stepped forward, his voice louder now. "You are putting our people at risk. You're ignoring royal law. And for what? A human? This is not love, it is weakness." Kale remained silent, but his hand tightened into a fist. Varela walked calmly to the general and looked him in the eye. "Do you think I don't see what this war has revealed? My mother hides, my nobles whisper behind walls. But Kale, he stood in front of blasters beside me, when even you were running." The general's face darkened. "You are not thinking clearly." "I am thinking clearly for the first time," she said. "You may leave if you cannot follow my command." He bowed stiffly and left the room. Kale looked at her. "He's going to report you to your mother." "Let him," Varela replied. "I will not hide love behind duty." Later that night, as the twin moons rose above Netheria, a message arrived. Through a private royal channel. It was the Empress. Her face appeared on the screen, regal and cold. "You have disobeyed me long enough," she said. "You are to leave the palace immediately. Bring the human with you. I will decide his fate once you're under my watch." Varela didn't even blink. "I will not come. And if you wish to decide his fate, you will have to go through mine." Her mother's face did not move. "You are forcing my hand, child. You are not Empress." "Not yet," Varela said calmly. The screen went black. Kale walked up beside her. "You know she might send her own guards next time." "She already has," Varela said, and turned. The doors to the chamber opened again. This time, it was a group of elite royal enforcers loyal only to the Empress. They stepped inside, weapons ready. Kale moved to shield Varela, but she placed a hand on his chest and stepped in front of him. "You are in the presence of your future ruler," she said to them. One of the enforcers hesitated. "We have orders, Princess." "Then listen to my order," she said with strength in her voice. "Stand down, or stand against me." There was silence. Then slowly, one by one, the enforcers lowered their weapons. Kale exhaled. "That was close." "Too close," Varela whispered after they left. Kale sat down heavily. "I didn't think loving you would feel like walking through fire." She sat beside him. "It's because it is. But you keep walking." They didn't need more words. Outside the palace, the Drixari forces were gathering again. But inside, something stronger than an army was rising. Trust, loyalty, and love unshaken by bloodlines or borders. The ground trembled beneath the palace. Explosions lit the night as the Drexari launched their final assault. This time, they didn't just send foot soldiers. They brought war beasts, siege drones, and energy cannons. Their goal was clear: destroy the palace and end the resistance. In one blow, Princess Varela stood at the highest tower, watching the approaching enemy with quiet focus. Her armor gleamed under the lightning-filled sky. Kale joined her, carrying a rebuilt plasma launcher he had repaired himself. His uniform was torn, his arms bruised, but his eyes were steady. "They're bringing everything they've got," he said, "and we'll give them everything we are," Varela replied. Inside the palace, defenders gathered. They weren't just soldiers, now civilians, mechanics, scholars, even musicians had taken up weapons. The people had stopped waiting for orders from the Empress. They now followed Varela, the sky filled with Drexari fighters. The palace shields held for a moment, then cracked. The enemy swarmed through the gates. Kale ran beside Varela as they led the charge. She fought like a queen from legend, fast, fearless, and sharp. Her blades sliced through Drexari armor. Kale followed her lead, shooting with precision, covering her flank. But the Drexari numbers were too great. Inside the control chamber, one of the engineers shouted, "We need backup. We can't hold all fronts." Varela pressed a button on her arm guard. A hidden transmitter activated. "You're calling for help?" Kale asked. "I'm calling everyone who still believes," she said. Outside the palace, dozens of resistance ships, small, fast, and independently operated, responded to her call. These were not official royal fleets. They were outcasts, rebels, and retired warriors who had once served her family before the Empress pushed them out. They arrived in formation, attacking the Drexari ships from above. The battlefield turned. From the Empress's mountain bunker, a broadcast was sent across all screens. Her face appeared, stern and unmoved. "This rebellion ends now," she said. "Varela, you are stripped of your title. The human is to be executed. All who stand with them are traitors." Varela stared at the screen. Her voice was calm but loud. Then I reject your throne. And I claim a new one, not through blood, but through choice." Kale stood beside her and added, "You may not want me, but your people do." The screen. Cut off. The battle raged on. Varela led a counterstrike through the lower chambers. Kale helped escort wounded civilians to safety. Every hallway became a battleground, every room a test of loyalty. The Drexari pushed hard, but the defenders pushed harder. At the front gate, the largest Drexari war beast broke through the final barrier. It roared and charged toward the control tower. Kale looked at it, then at Varela. "I'll take it." She grabbed his arm. "You'll die." "Maybe, but if I don't stop it, we all die." Without waiting for permission, he sprinted ahead, climbing the tower walls, carrying explosives from the storage room. He reached the top just as the beast slammed into the wall below. Kale leapt, landing on its back. The beast roared, thrashing, but he held on, climbing toward its armored neck. With shaking hands, he placed the charge between its metal plates and jumped. The explosion threw him across the courtyard. The beast crashed to the ground. Silence followed. Varela ran to him, falling to her knees. He was burned, bleeding, but alive. "You idiot," she whispered. "You still choosing me?" He coughed, half smiling. "Every second." As dawn broke, the Drexari retreated. The palace stood, barely. But the people cheered not for the Empress, not for ancient bloodlines. They cheered for the princess who chose her own path, and the human who made them believe. The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke rose in soft trails. Broken weapons and scorched armor lay scattered across the palace grounds. The Drexari were gone for now, but the cost of the battle showed on every wall, every face. Kale rested in the medical bay, wrapped in healing fabric, bruised but awake. He smiled when he saw Varela enter the room. "You lived," she said, kneeling beside him. "I'm hard to get rid of." He joked, though his voice was weak. "You almost got yourself killed." "I'd do it again," he said. "For you, for them." She touched his hand. "Don't you dare." But before they could say more, one of the guards rushed in. "Your Highness, the Empress. She's here." Varela stood quickly. "What?" "She arrived just now, alone. She's requested to speak with you, face to face." Kale tried to rise. "It's a trap." "I don't think she's come to fight," Varela said. "But she never comes without reason." She walked to the throne room, now cracked and dirty from the recent battle. The banners were torn, the windows broken, yet it still stood. And there, in the center of it all, stood her mother. Empress Lysira looked older now. Her golden robes were clean, but her face showed the weight of years and pride broken. "You're alive," she said simply. "I led the fight. We won," Varela replied. "You led traitors. And a human." "I led people who refused to run," Varela said. "Including him." The Empress stepped forward, her voice low. "You would burn our legacy for a single man?" "I would build a new one for everyone else," Varela said. "One that doesn't depend on fear or bloodlines." The Empress paused. "He has no throne, no name. He has honor and heart. Then what do you want from me?" The Empress asked. "Nothing," Varela said. "Except this, step aside." Silence filled the room. The Empress looked around at the ruined chamber. "You think they will follow you? They already are." Outside the throne room, a large crowd had gathered: wounded soldiers, civilians, young students, old nobles. They waited not for orders, but for hope. And they had found it in her. The Empress walked slowly to the throne. She touched its side. "I sat here for 30 years. Varela said nothing. Then the Empress stepped down. "I thought strength came from control," she said softly. "But you showed me it comes from something else." She walked past Varela, pausing only once. "Do not let love blind you." "It hasn't," Varela said. "It helped me see." With that, Empress Lysira left the palace. No guards, no crown. Just a mother letting go. Varela returned to Kale, who had heard everything through the palace speakers. She left? He asked. Varela nodded. I think she finally saw me. She'd be back, maybe, Varela said. But next time, it won't be a war. That night, the skies over Netheria were calm. The stars blinked above a city still healing. And in the heart of the palace, the people gathered not for a coronation, but for a promise. Varela stood before them, Kale beside her. She wore no crown, no royal jewels. Only armor scratched from battle, and a heart that had survived everything. I am not your queen, she said. Not yet. But I am one of you. And I will lead as one of you. The crowd cheered. Even the oldest nobles bowed. Kale leaned over. You know, this might be the strangest royal romance in the galaxy. Varela smiled. It's not over yet. The city of Netheria was slowly being rebuilt. What was once broken now stood stronger, not just the walls, but the people. For the first time in generations, there were no banners of war hanging from towers. No noble houses arguing in the halls. Only a quiet hope that the future might finally be different. Inside the palace, Princess Varela stood in the center of the great circle, a sacred ground where rulers were crowned. But today, there would be no crown. Only choice. The people gathered. In silence, curious and tense. Some were nobles, others were simple workers. Soldiers in patched armor stood beside children and healers. And at the edge of the circle, Kale waited dressed in ceremonial robes stitched by Netherian hands, his human features clear among the alien crowd. Varela raised her voice. Tradition says I must choose a mate who holds power. Someone from the high houses. Someone ... not human. There was murmuring in the crowd. She continued. But tradition also said I couldn't fight for my people. And I did. It said a human could never be trusted. But he stood beside me when even blood relatives walked away. I ask you now, should we follow laws written in fear, or write new ones in courage? The crowd began to cheer softly. Then louder. Some even cried. She walked toward Kale, step by step, never looking away. You were never meant to be here, she said gently. But you are here, with me, because you chose to stay. Kale smiled. And I will keep choosing you. Every day. She reached into her armor and pulled out a small band, a ring, made from the metal of the first drone he ever fixed for her people. She took his hand and placed it on his finger. He did the same. Varela turned to the crowd. This is my mate. My equal, not because of his birth, but because of his heart. The crowd roared with approval. Some nobles looked shocked. But none stepped forward to stop it. Not this time. From the shadows near the temple gates, the Empress watched silently. She said nothing, but her hand tightened around a folded ribbon, the same ribbon Varela wore in her hair as a child. For the first time, the Empress's face softened. She turned and walked away, not with anger, but peace. Later that evening, Kale and Varela stood in the palace gardens under the twin moons. The trees glowed gently, the wind calm. This doesn't feel real, Kale said. Me, here with you. It's real, she said, and it's just the beginning. They walked hand in hand, past the old stone statues, toward the new future they would build, one step at a time, together.